State political reporter Isabel Damon joins us from Woodville. Isabel, why can't we go back to normal straight away?
Well, Emma, we're still in lockdown because this pizza bar is still considered a dangerous COVID hotspot. This one lie means health authorities now have a lot of work to do to catch up on the contact tracing they should have been able to do several days ago. Police have been parked here guarding the shop, anticipating backlash for much of the afternoon, and the response from the community has been strong. People have been going online to vent their anger through reviews left for the shop, and the backlash on social media has been vicious. Let's take a look at how this extraordinary day unfolded and how SA's hard lockdown was cut short. An entire state locked down, all over a lie.
The lie was the person claimed that they'd purchased a pizza from the pizza shop, where in fact they were working there and had been working there for several shifts.
To say that I am fuming about the actions of this individual is an absolute understatement.
Authorities feared that individual, who also works in a medi-hotel kitchen, picked up the virus just by picking up a pizza from the Woodville pizza bar.
Their story didn't add up.
The man eventually admitted he worked at the shop alongside an infected co-worker. The entire lockdown potentially avoidable.
I absolutely am convinced that it was the right decision, and I have no regrets whatsoever.
Why the man lied about his movements remains unknown or undisclosed.
At the appropriate time when we have that information available, we will provide further information as far as we can in accordance with privacy principles.
99.9% of people that we interview for contact tracing give us the right information.
The lockdown will now end at midnight on Saturday, but other restrictions will remain in place. The threat from the cluster far from over.
This person's failure to be truthful with contact tracers means that his close associates, who we understand he's had close contact with, have not been identified and are currently in the community.
Not in the community though, the 3 new cases recorded today already quarantining. Among them, another aged care worker from Anglicare's Brompton facility. Staff are being tested every 72 hours, as are residents.
They've come back with no positive results. So we've got 39 residents in the facility who have been tested, and the news is good.
The Parafield cluster is now 25 and more cases are expected. 4,500 people are in quarantine directly linked to confirmed infections or high-risk locations.
There is a genuine basis for people to be outraged, but we need to move past this.
Moving on in an already testing week. Isabel Damon, ABC News, Adelaide.
And late this afternoon, South Australia Police announced it's formed a task force to investigate the information provided to the state's coronavirus contact tracing teams. The head of the task force, Assistant Commissioner Peter Harvey, says 20 detectives will be on the team.
From this point on, we'll be looking at what legislation may or may not have been breached. It is complex. It could span any number of potential lots of legislation, from the criminal law through to the Emergency Management Act or the public health sort of focus acts. So I won't go into that in great detail today. It's quite a piece of legislation to unpick, but that's why we have probably some of our most experienced detectives involved. And across crime service, I also have at my disposal detectives from major crime, public protection and our financial crime branch. So I'm confident we'll get to an answer in a fast time frame.
It's been a cruel and confusing week for all South Australian businesses forced to close during the state's lockdown. The economy is now set to restart on Sunday, but there's major concern many businesses will struggle to recover from the 3-day shutdown. Sarah Mullins reports.
The sourdough at Goodwood's Boulangerie has risen to perfection. But the short lockdown has left bakers deflated.
We just opened a new shop, so just even losing that 4 days of profit is putting us in a difficult situation.
Forbidden to open to walk-in customers, the bakery instead sold its bread to the IGA 2 doors down. But not every business felt bound by police directions to abandon takeaway sales. One of the state's biggest retailers, OTR, yesterday directed staff to continue selling takeaway items, including hot dogs, coffees and hot bakery items. Today, they stopped.
It's pissed us off that a bigger company, just because they're larger, can still produce what we are producing.
Come Sunday, all bakeries, cafes and restaurants will be back in business as the entire state steps out of a mini but costly lockdown.
My priority is just opening up the economy as quickly as we can.
I did share with the Premier that clearly this has resulted in terms of the last 3 days, many business owners have had to throw out a lot of inventory, and clearly they're going to be calling for some form of compensation.
With the public now allowed to exercise outside, gym owner Damien Grant has stopped sweating over the future of his business.
From Saturday midnight, my online training stops and we reopen the gym as normal.
Normal is something many South Australians after this chaotic week are desperate to get back to. Sarah Mullins, ABC News, Adelaide.
And reporter Mahalia Carter is at Henley Beach, where people are making the most of the initial relaxing of the rules. Mahalia, people have had to quickly change their plans.
Well, Emma, it's no doubt it's been a difficult few days for South Australia, but as you can probably see around me here at Henley Beach this evening, there are plenty of people out and about going for a run, walking their dogs and really enjoying that first of the restrictions to ease, which was the exercise ban that was lifted at midday today. Another restriction that's been eased is the border with the Northern Territory. They were one of the first to implement border restrictions earlier in the week, and they're now the first to remove it. That means from 9 a.m. tomorrow, that hotspot declaration will be removed, so any South Australian that's in the Northern Territory who's currently in quarantine will be released once they get a check over and a final COVID-19 test. So they'll be free to go out and enjoy their holidays and be reunited with family and friends as planned. And as I did say before, it really has been a tough few days for the state, but South Australians are already getting back out into the community as much as they can.
Lockdown threatened to be a difficult road for many South Australians, until today's unexpected turn.
Effective immediately, exercise within family groups or people that you reside with is now permissible.
Immediately, people were back out pounding the pavement, moving through the gears and keeping their four-legged friends happy once again.
It felt like being in jail, so it's like a new found freedom.
Just amazing to be able to get outside and have a bit of a wander around. Fantastic, so.
Restrictions will be further eased from midnight Saturday, but not completely removed while contact tracing continues. Schools will reopen again. Pubs, cafes and restaurants will have a limit of 100 people. Gyms will reopen with space constraints, while hair and beauty salon employees will have to wear face masks. Weddings will have a cap of 150 people, funerals will be limited to 100, and religious ceremonies can resume with up to 100 people attending. While most South Australians are preparing to embrace some freedoms once again, others are preparing for more isolation in their second round of hotel quarantine. Multicultural Youth SA is making that prospect a little easier, delivering culturally sensitive packages to those in need.
It's for 3 clients who are in quarantine, and the mother is pregnant and she wants to have some curry.
They've delivered almost 150 food and toy packages to those in medi-hotels and community isolation.
So we're providing that real fundamental, practical support, and we're tailoring it to each family and young person that calls us.
Supporting those who need it in the most challenging of times. Patrick Martin, ABC News, Adelaide.
Challenging times too for South Australia's regional areas, where the sudden reboot from the harsh lockdown is posing just as many challenges. With international borders closed, country areas had been enjoying a surge in tourism. Now, locals hope they'll be able to once again roll out the welcome mat.
When the state went into lockdown, Port Lincoln restaurant owner Chris Bunder was left with kilos of fresh seafood that had to go.
We basically gave it away at cost, just so we could get something for it.
With the lockdown ending early but his suppliers still closed, Chris had to hit the local shops to restock so that he can open at 8 a.m. on Sunday.
mainly fruit and vegetables, that we got rid of on the Wednesday. So we'll go down to some of the local supermarkets and see what we can find.
On the water, it's a different story. Fishers who were expecting a 6-day lockdown relocated to their vessels and anchored at sea so they could keep working.
I think they're quite comfortable because they're isolated. They're working on the boats. They haven't been to shore. They anchor during the day and sleep and then work at night.
While they'll be looking forward to getting back to their own beds, regional tourism operators will be scrambling to get others into theirs.
The effect of this short but very harsh lockdown has hit home across regional South Australia, where there's usually 1 or 2 primary industries that employ a vast majority of locals.
In the state's southeast, one of the biggest employers, forestry, was shut down, despite being declared an essential service by the federal government earlier this year, and having been allowed to deliver logs to and from Victorian sites during that state's COVID outbreak.
We've got a system that we can work with the pandemic present. So I think that the government needs to, have confidence in the industry that we can operate in restricted or pressing circumstances.
Pressing circumstances that are hopefully coming to an end. Evelyn Leckie, ABC News, Port Lincoln.